Afternoon, guys. Just thought I'd do a broadcast because I haven't done one for ages. Just a quick hello, see how things are going with everybody, and also a little update for myself. Wrote a few topics down, so I'll cover those, but also if you want to throw anything in on the side of the chat side, please feel free to do so, and we'll discuss things as they go along. First thing I want to talk about is the expat drama. To be honest, I'm extremely tired of it. The whole BBOTS thing, what I find fascinating is how people want to lay claim or opinionate other people about the way they think things are. Yet at the same time, it's just sad. I've got to admit, I'm just tired of it. I can't bother with it. And I know some of these guys think they're better than other people, but at the same time, I know they're opposite. I know the problem is I'm trying not to bite into stuff that I already know about other individuals because quite simply that'll make me as bad as they are. So I'll move past that. But personally, I recommend just sidetracking the drama on that side. Life in Spain, I've got to admit, the summer holidays are an absolute nightmare. Got the kids at home, but when you're trying to work, it's not really the kids, it's the dog barking outside, the couple of alcoholics downstairs, the neighbor over the road that's still got skips outside on the street, and it's like living next door to gypsies. That's the only way I can describe it. Hi, Charles. Hello from West Carlton. How's things? But beyond that, we're moving in a couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to going back to La Mata. Moving to Torrevieja was a bit of a nightmare. We needed the extra space, but to be honest, it sort of highlights that literally moving a couple of miles away, you can be in a zone that I would classify as more like living in a council's estate. People that just don't give a damn about anybody but themselves, you know, the loud music, the drunkenness, all that sort of stuff. I can't be bothered with it. Hi, Darius from Iowa and Richard from Ohio. A good mix of people in here today. But one of the things I want to stress about Spain is I find it quite peculiar when you actually discuss things like this. It's like sort of saying, be careful where you buy, because a couple of miles away, it's fine. People are nice. The location's nice. The way that people appreciate around them is nice. But in a short distance, these people are animals. They're just inconsiderate, and they do it to each other. It's not, you know, targeting the Brits or whatever. It's quite simply, it's just the way they are. And like I said, I mean, I call it gypsy mentality because I've seen it in the UK, which is very similar. And it's normally the gypsies that are doing it. But you'll get the comments on YouTube or whatever say, oh, well, you don't like Spain, move. You don't like this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's pointing out a problem. The problem is a lot of people are quite rowdy. And I know a lot of Spaniards do not like these types of people either. It's the same in the UK. I do not like the same types of people that you get that are the same in the UK. What you need to recognize is these people exist, so everybody can avoid them. And that's one of the things I'd wanted to cover today is about the differences from when I was a kid. Charles, all good up here. Many deer in my yard with the fawns. That's nice. That's nice to see. You know, I've got to admit, that is nice to see. But yeah, back to the subject. When I was a kid, we were taught about engagement in the sense that the rise of Germany come about by people standing around and not stopping it happen. Yet I find today, every time you try and do something, people say, don't complain. Don't complain. Don't get involved in that. Don't do this. It's the complete opposite. It's why you find some of these minority people, and I say minority people because they're not a minority group, but they will say they represent a larger group when they don't. But they have an agenda, they have their own viewpoints, and they drive that in one direction. Very little engagement, because what happens is you're told that you're racist, you're anti-gay, you're anti-this, you're anti-that, when in fact, all you're trying to do is discuss the problem. And it is a concerning thing for me because it's everywhere. People are simply not wanting to engage. I mean, the whole burqa thing in the UK with old Boris Johnson at the moment, his comments are pretty stupid, but at the end of the day, all he had to do was say, well, you know what, I think it's a security issue, and that would have been it. But instead, he comes up with his pillar box conversation piece, and quite simply, it looks stupid as normal. I don't think he is stupid, to be honest. He's certainly making a good living out of what he does anyway. Charles, hello, Iowa, Ohio, Sweden. My mum was half Swede. Oh, sorry, Bobby, I didn't see you there. I'm from Sweden. Yeah, so the problem is, I think people need to engage more to actually try and slow some of this stuff down. And it's not being anti this or anti that. It's actually an engagement, injecting some common sense, because people are being allowed to push everybody back without the injection of common sense to say these things need to be discussed. These things ain't right. What you're talking about is absolute nonsense, but it doesn't get discussed. It gets pushed away. So I do think that people should be more proactive in sort of saying, look, what's the issue with it? And, you know, get them to justify why they're complaining about something, and they'll have a long-winded answer. I've got to admit, Jordan Peterson's been quite an interesting one for me recently, simply because he talks about where he gets his findings, how he understands things, etc. And a lot of the time it's completely ignored. The facts aren't relevant. It's people's agenda that becomes more relevant because the facts actually say they're wrong. And I do find that fascinating, in the sense that how can you actually say that somebody that's actually went and researched it, understand what they're talking about, is completely wrong? It's completely bizarre for me. But anyway, moving on from that, I'm still focused on other projects that we're doing here in Spain as well. The guys over in Venezuela have been doing the things on the power plants, and we're hopefully going to see some fruition from that very soon. They are having issues around the internet and other connection issues, because obviously Venezuela is not in the best of states right now, due to the political issues there and the corruption. So I'm waiting to hear on that. The crypto markets are still down, but there's nothing really stimulating it. One of the issues I brought up before is the fact that a lot of people invested in it without no idea what they're investing in. There was just an expectation that money was just going to keep going up. Well, it is. We're now in a development phase where there could be a long phase of a year or so where very little seems to be happening, because quite simply they've gone away and started building everything. So for me, I've sort of locked my investments in and looking at doing other stuff for the next 6-12 months. Did okay out of it. I've got a lot of the investment portfolio, but quite simply, I need to move on to something else to keep me occupied. The locksmithing stuff's going quite well. I do think I need to get some better picks. The ones I got, they're not the best quality, so I'm going to go to a place in the UK that I know supplies a lot of gear. From when I used to do it, they're a lot more expensive, but then again, it's not cheap, nasty stuff. So I know it's going to last the next 20 years. So you pay a lot more, you get a lot more reliability out of it. And one of the things I want to mention today as well, a big thank you for somebody who actually trolled and thought it'd be funny to put my information on a gay channel somewhere. You've actually stimulated my Facebook page considerably. There's been a lot of positive stuff out of the gay community since whoever did that. So though it is quite funny in the sense that they assumed it would have some negative impact, it's had a lot of positive impact. Because one of the things I do want to stress is I have no issue with anybody, religion or sex-wise. I have no interest in what anybody does behind closed doors. It's none of my business. So yeah, big thank you for that. You've added at least 100 subscribers, so I appreciate that. Yeah, that's it, Darius. Due to the amount of information on the internet, people can find people's facts can be manipulated them to mean anything they want. It's become very, very easy to do, and that's one of the big problems with it. Is a lot of people do not correct things. For example, when they get bits of information, the age of consent, 12 years old. In the Philippines, people will say, oh, well, that's consensual. No, the actual law is to do with anti-rape, because under 12 years old, it's without a doubt. if you committed rape. After 12 years old, you are actually seen as if they consented or not, because they're seen more as an adult. Doesn't matter if people agree with the consent or not, because they're superseded by other laws, because that law was, I think, 1997. But the cybercrime laws, the anti-trafficking laws, and other laws supersede it. But a lot of people will focus on this bit without putting all the other bits of information together, actually say, well, it doesn't really matter about this one because you're superseded by other laws anyway, which have a lot more time with them in the sense of jail time. But it's often that way. It's often skewed. And you're right, people do pick and choose what is a fact today. And I see it all over Facebook on a daily basis. I've got to admit, one of the things I have started doing is removing all political posts from my Facebook, because they're often little subgroups which are particularly targeting a specific thing, which for me is not what democracy is about. Democracy is about the ability to actually engage and discuss things and actually have an open discussion without manipulation. People should be able to say, well, this is this fact, and you go, no, that fact's actually wrong. This is the fact that's come from here, and that supersedes that because of X, Y, Z. A lot of that's not going on. Everyone's separating in these little subgroups, which is where things become very skewed. Great Pretender 21. Hi, Matt from the Philippines. Hi, how's it going? Charles, hello, Philippines. I retire there. So okay, chat to each other. Yeah, so it does concern me, that stuff, because the Facebook and YouTube and other social media are becoming the go-to for information. But because it's channeled in a specific way, people are not getting both sides of the coin. I was watching a Black American guy a while back that was talking about the stuff around racism, because one of the things he noticed that he got angry because of the information he had, which was skewed towards his political views and the people that he spoke to. So his was very manipulated to be anti-white. But when he actually created a fake account and actually tried and go the other way in the sense of being more biased towards the white side, he started getting all the political stuff relating to that was anti-black. And that's when he started to realize how manipulated things are. And I mean, you don't have to believe me on this stuff. You can go and try it yourself. But I'm just saying, we're in a world where we're actually seeing things that are micromanaged on your politics and your beliefs and your choices. Is being micromanaged through the information that you're providing, through what you like, what you look at, and everything else. And they start homing in on things they know you're interested in. But the problem with that is it comes with a bias. It comes with a sales page. It comes with something that has a political agenda, because I believe Facebook, for example, in the US election receives, I think, $34 million between both sides on the election. So the point being is, it's big business. And that's one of the things I think a lot of people need to look at is, are they being manipulated and how? Because sometimes it is worth stepping back and having a look at what people are doing. This is why I started shutting down a lot of the political stuff, because I know a lot of it is designed to actually make me annoyed and other people annoyed, etc. And as such, I started removing it, because quite simply, it's not giving me news. It's not serving any positive agenda. What it's actually doing is trying to create a political agenda that is suiting the people behind those specific targeted adverts, pages, etc., to incite racial hatred or whatever it is. And I do think it's important that people recognize we're getting played. The other thing I'm looking at doing as well with the live chats is open them up. I might start doing them more regular, depending what comes up soon, because I'm looking at contracting back in the UK for a while, just waiting for my car. Hopefully it's coming back next week. So there's a form actually in the comment section, in the description section, where you can actually put in what you want to talk about, email information, etc. Just so that we have some sort of setup where people can actually log in and communicate via emails in advance, so people can actually set up. For example, say I put 10 topic headers, I could send that out to somebody who wants to come live ahead, so they know what's going to be discussed, and it makes the discussion flow a lot easier. I also put Jay and Bammer on there as well, so that you can actually set it up for their channels as well. Now, the last thing I suppose I want to talk about today is probably policing the expat community, unless somebody else has got another topic they want to throw out there. One of the things I want to say about policing the expat community is, firstly, it's nobody's right to be doing it, but secondly, if you're policing it, there's a difference between policing it and dictating. Policing it is when you actually go and report things that are actually criminal actions and stuff to the police. Going online and whining about other expats is more in line with just complaining and trying to dictate what you want. I know there's plenty of expats out there don't agree with the way I do things, and the same way I don't agree with what they do. But you know what? That's what a community is. Not everybody flows in the same way. I mean, I know some people are quite self-righteous, at the same time pick up bar girls pretty much every night, yet online they're talking about how great their life is. The point being is, everybody has their own agenda out there, their own thing. Myself, this week I was actually thinking of like moving away from the Philippine side and also Spain, and actually just focusing on the business side. But to be honest, doing more stuff on tutorials and stuff is actually more viable for me. But the reason I do the expat stuff is people ask me questions, etc. Yeah, Danny Gordon, there are good expats out there, but you have to be careful. Yeah, definitely. There's some right animals out there. I remember a friend of mine went to visit his house, and because the guy next door owed him money, but the guy next door was actually on his third strike from the US. He was from Latin Kings. Well, there's an expat for you. But what was he in the Philippines for? He's actually there drug dealing. That's the reality. He wouldn't go back to the US because he was already on his third strike. But the point being is, he hadn't learned. He was in the Philippines doing what he was doing with the same sort of gang culture that existed in the US, and with the same gangs, just the offshore side. Yeah, many good expats on YouTube. Also the wackos. Yeah, I mean, some of the wackos, it's interesting. I mean, Jay mentioned something the other day about, because we were chatting about some of the stuff that's been coming out relating to the BBOS thing, and he was on about Peter van der Veer, and Peter van der Veer's last couple of videos have actually made some sense. In that sense, I went and had a look at PV's videos, and I've got to agree with some of the stuff that he was actually saying, which is probably the first time that I have been able to do that, because it's actually been focused on specific topics. So from that point of view, I'd have to agree with him on some of this stuff, and which is quite unusual. Yeah, the tingles. Have had any issues with YouTube strikes, etc., with a number of YouTube contributors being banned, suspended? I avoid all the subject. That's why, like with the live chats, it's all pre-screened. A lot of the issues people are having is people actually being disruptive on purpose. The same as when they try and bombard they try and contact YouTube as if there's something untoward going on the channel as well to cause a trolling strike. And I did have that a while back, but YouTube did reinstate it. It took them 3 days, and the fact was, no apology, nothing else. They just switched it all back on. They did a full review of the entire channel and seen there was nothing wrong whatsoever. But I wouldn't say it's YouTube that have an agenda on that stuff. A lot of it is people trolling, and they're doing it on purpose, and they're just being disruptive. They report you for abuse, racial abuse, sexual abuse, whatever. Anything that breaches the guidelines, then YouTube may take it offline, review it, and then switch it back on if there's nothing there. But they also like logging in, and this is what the trolls are doing, and putting adult material, for example, onto live chats and things, and then reporting it, which I find completely childish and non-positive. Now, YouTube, from its sense of an agenda, I would say is completely different. Their agenda is more down the lines of being advertiser friendly, because at the end of the day, they're a corporation, they're a business, and from that point of view, they're being dictated now more from the advertiser front. But at the same time, they do not want to go down the route of television, because television's a dying breed. They want to try and keep it a bit more open, but it's trying to get advertisers to pay for adverts on channels that may be deemed non-advertiser friendly, like politics, which I find completely bizarre. I'm not being funny, but if you were politically motivated and you had a car advert on a politically motivated channel that you watch every Friday, does it affect the advertiser in a negative way? The answer is no, because it's actually relevant to the person who's watching the video, who wants to buy a car and is also politically active. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I do understand that YouTube is being pushed by some of these people that are basically writing the checks. So from that point of view, I would say it's a difficult one for YouTube, because it's now stuck between creators and advertisers, because obviously the advertisers did that big boycott, and it's pushed the goalposts in the directions more in the favor of the advertisers than the creators these days. Yeah, so that's what I would say on that. Yeah, Danny Gordon, there is a reason when expats see other expats and they just keep going their own way. Yeah, the thing is, expats, well, that's why I find that some of the stuff quite weird when people are very confrontational on things. They've got to recognize not everybody has the same lifestyle. I mean, it's like when I talk about men going their own way, it's quite simply the fact that I understand where people are coming from, because back before I met my wife, I was going my own way. I'd already had enough with it. I'd just come out of an 11-year relationship, and basically I just took a bag of clothes and left. I'd had enough. But the point being is, I was quite happy on my own. And this is where you'll get people go, well, that's just lonely. No, there's a difference between alone and lonely. Lonely is when you actually crave the attention or need somebody in your life, where alone is you're quite happy to sit and read a book and do stuff alone. But it doesn't mean that you're going to sit there on your own 24/7. It means that you go and do the stuff that you want to do and the stuff that you enjoy. So if you want to read and be on your own, you can be. If you want to have a girlfriend 3 days a week, you can do. It's up to you. It's sort of taking more control over your life. And a lot of people forget that because they seem to think it's a sad, lonely thing to do. But it's not. It's actually people doing their own thing. A lot of the authors, I'm sure some of these people read, if they do read, they would see a lot of the philosophical stuff, definitely, is around people that are generally men that have gone their own way, and maybe women that go their own way. I haven't covered that many on the women's side. But generally, it's people that are taking time out to actually develop their books, travel, whatever. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Danny, how is the cryptocurrency trading going? The crypto stuff at the moment is in a lull. The market's being pushed in a downward spiral, but at the same time, it's more to do with it's a immature market in the sense many people have no idea what they're investing in. The markets will bounce back. They do generally anyway. There's a lot of over-evaluations last year. I did quite well out of it, so I can't grumble, but I'm holding on to my portfolio right now because I know it's going to go up by at least 4 times over the next 12 to 18 months. So I'm not really trading too much at the moment. But at the same time, it's one of those things that I may actually do it in a broader sense. I may actually do some videos on how to trade. Not just that, but it fits in with Forex and other versions of trading and doing a breakdown on how to trade. Yeah, tingles. The big bull run started this time last year for me. Exactly. I know I'm in a lot of the trading groups as well, and their expectations is going to do this, going to do that, going to do this. There's too much media-driven stuff in it rather than the actual development of crypto, which is the problem. Danny Gordon, have you thought about Forex? Yes. I've got a friend that actually trades Forex at the moment, and we were discussing that. And I've got a friend who trades in futures and another friend who trades and other stuff as well. We're talking about different things at the moment because I can liquidate some of my portfolio and move it into other markets, and it's something I am looking at doing. But I'm just waiting for something to actually, like Tingles said, waiting for a bit of a bull run on something. And then I'll cash something out and move it across for trading in something new. just to broaden my portfolio and reduce my risk, so I can keep trading all other stuff. There is money still to be made. If you day trade, there's money to be made in crypto without a doubt. Myself, I'm sort of looking at other things at the moment. I'm looking at picking up some contracts in the UK, short to medium term. There's something we're looking at here in Spain, which financially I'll need some extra cash to buy. So I'm looking at something in the UK that may actually run for a year. But hopefully it's in the education system, which means I get extra holidays anyway. And obviously April, the kids can travel to the UK, so it's not being away too much. Danny Gordon, the currency markets are a little more predictable and stable. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, swing trading. Have you tried any trading bots? Yes, a Gunbot I've used. Gunbot works to a point, but you've got to watch it. When it was the markets were all on the up, it was doing really well. But a lot of people have struggled with it because, quite simply, because the markets have been a bit unpredictable, it's been easier to do your trades manually because of taking some of the cash completely out with things like the dreaded ledger. Let the market drop, then do a buy-in and watch it go back up, which you can do manually, much easier. The bots struggle with that sort of stuff to understand it. So, yes, swing trading is good. There's good money to be made in swing trading. But trading bots, I think the markets have been a bit difficult for them to actually work properly. And I know the guys that I spend time with, they've been struggling to get the bots to work correctly. They've had problems around Ethereum and other things that have affected their bot trading. Yeah, that's it. That you hit the nail on the head. I'm exactly the same. Tingles says, hate watching the screen all day. That's my problem, because at the end of the day, I didn't move to Spain to sit and do that all day. That's why I'm looking at other things, because quite simply, I want to get back out the house again. It becomes a full-time occupation doing day trading. Yeah, it is one of those things that is a bit tedious. And I've got friends that have got 3 TVs in their sitting room, plus the TV, because they're sitting watching all 4 screens at the same time. Because although they're sat watching a TV, they're also watching to see if there's any movements on the other screens as well. It's just one of those scenarios. I mean, it's easy money, but at the same time, it can be a bit of a pain sitting there all day waiting for someone to go up 3-4% and then sell it, let it go down a bit, let it go back up again, buy, sell, buy, sell. But things like NEO, for example, has been an easy trade for me. But it does take up a lot of your time. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with that totally. It's one thing I have got is I've got very bored of doing that. It's why I've started looking into Excel and other stuff again. I'm also looking at app development and Java, and I've been doing a lot of stuff in the background. Let's put it that way. Yeah, Danny, what's the return on investment you get on apartments in the Philippines, and what's the cost of building in your area? For an apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment, it's cost me around 300,000. 300,000 all in. Let me work this out for you. Now, rental-wise, if you go Airbnb, you can charge a lot more. And I have 2 different rates, Airbnb and local rate. Local rate is guys that want to stay there for the next couple of years or whatever, so they get a cheap rate. But if you're Airbnb, it's like 12K, because obviously the electricity costs and stuff, that's per month. But if I take it at the lowest rate, which is very easy to do, we would call that 6K. You're looking at 720K a year. What's happened here? Yeah, call it 6K. Give you 72K a year. So we divide that by the 300K, that'll give you your running costs. Well, your ROI. which means you'll get your money back in 4.1 years. I put it down as 5 years myself because you have things like TVs break and stuff. So yeah, your return on investment is about 5 years. Things like the what do you call it? The electrical meters are expensive. They'll try and rip you off on those. Cost somewhere between 3,000 and 8,000 pesos. The reason I say that because I can't remember how many I bought. So I might have paid 8,000 for 3 of them. I can't remember because I separate all the power for each apartment because it stops people arguing. You've got to be aware that some people, if you have a shared meter, people will argue who's used the most, because somebody will go, well, I don't use the aircon in the daytime, the other person does, so they should pay more of the electric and all this sort of stuff. So make sure the meters are separated, or it's all inclusive. And if it's all inclusive, be aware that some people will leave the aircon running 24/7, which is why when you do your Airbnb, you bump it up a little bit, because quite simply they can run up as much on the aircon as the rent would be on its own. So that's something to be aware of. Anybody else got any questions? Anything else? Because I've run out of things on my list. I suppose another thing is UK contracting. Is anything available this time of year? In my experience, it normally ramps up in September. To be honest, since Carillion's collapse, a lot of work's available because a lot of the guys I work with retired. Now, that puts a lot of work in things like government organizations, education, medical, military, corporation, because a lot of the people simply just call it a day because they got a lump sum when they left, and that ran them up to retirement, or they're already at retirement age anyway. So there's been a lot of vacancies. I've had a few good ones come through. I've applied for them, but because of the status of them, it normally takes them about 6 weeks to get a decision through, purely because of where they sit in the business, because they put multiple recruitment agencies for people at those levels. So there is a couple of good ones I'm looking at. There's one I'm really interested in, which would be a nice one for me relating to a university. So I'm just waiting to see how that goes. Have you ever had problems with contractors claiming to be hurt on the job and trying to collect from you long term? In the UK or in the Philippines? In the Philippines, no. In the UK, not with me directly. There has been some people within the business, when I say the business, when I work for other companies, and that was dealt with by the courts. At the end of the day, that goes to a legal team and nothing to do with me whatsoever. Does my location affect your selection? No, because as long as I got a airport, I'm not really fussed, because like now I'm waiting for my car to finally be fixed and I'll be driving over to the UK. And once I've got the car, I'll be looking at going anywhere in the UK. West Midlands is more favourable because my parents' house is in Worcester, so it's free accommodation, let's put it that way. But a lot of the time, hotels and stuff are thrown in anyway, depending on the type of contract. For example, if it's a 3-month stint and it's up in the mountains of Scotland, then obviously they'll throw the hotel in because nobody lives there. The same is in London, because some of the rates don't really match, or the skill sets are often difficult to get the right people. They'll pay extra. When I went to Lincoln, for example, they paid for me to drive every day and paid for my time in the car as well as the fuel. Tingles, I did a contract at Jaguar Land Rover in West Midlands. Well, there's another one. I mean, I've got a friend there. You may have come across him. Oh, what's his name? Funny thing is, I was talking to him the other day, actually. Wayne works there. He does contracts to do with calibration at the Jaguar Land Rover plants. All right, Danny, take it easy. Speak again soon. Thanks for watching. Yeah, Wayne's does calibration there every year at the Jaguar plant. So you might have come across him. He's an electrical contractor. Wayne I've known since That's probably 2008. We did a lot of stuff of for Siemens turbines back then. That's how we originally met. But I've known him, yeah, it's 2008. We've been on different contracts, just bump into each other because he's been working with different companies, and that's the bizarre thing. You find all these different companies get these different contracts, then hire the same people regardless of what, that's why Wayne was working for one company and I was there on behalf of Carillion. Yet we both worked together in different capacities for different companies and just on the same contracts. So much money to be made on these things. Yeah, there's a lot of contractors. Yeah, I know, especially if you've got any shutdown period where all the maintenance is getting done. When I used to do the MOD research, there's a 2-week window to do 180 buildings. It's ridiculous. So you got a lot of people in there at once. They're trying to rewind motors, swap motors out, go through all the service and maintenance on everything, because when they're operational, you're not allowed to touch any of it. Everything's set up at minimum 2 of everything, but a lot of time it's 4 of everything, so that if anything goes down, there's another one that will run for another 6 months. When that goes down, another one will run, and then there's an emergency one. Yeah, it's a nightmare. Tingles. I'm in IT, cloud computing, process documentation, and project management. Yeah, I do project management a lot of the time, but I've started to get back into software because I've been more hands-on, like with things like HVAC, physical buildings, but I'm starting to get back into the IT side because, quite simply, I can do IT from anywhere for a lot of places. Data centers, for example. Data centers, I was involved with RBS Bank. I was in charge of their critical sites. So the data centers in Scotland, for example, were one of ours. So yeah, I know what they're like. I mean, I did get an interview with AWS, Amazon Web Services. I mentioned it. I think I mentioned it a while back. I didn't get it because, quite simply, whoever recruited it recruited for the wrong criteria, because they needed somebody that was more electrical bias on the high voltage stuff relating to the data centers, where I'm more in line with, I can manage the computer systems, I can manage the buildings, I can manage the servicing, replacement, contractors, basically day-to-day running, as well as putting all the forward planning and 25-year plan management together. But they actually needed somebody to actually put the high voltage stuff together because they're expanding, and they needed somebody that could actually do the commissioning and everything else. But it was interesting having the conversation with the director, because it was one of those meetings where you start having the conversation about why you think you'd fit with the business, because I hadn't even seen any criteria for it. I just got asked if it was all right for somebody to apply on my behalf. And then it's like, oh, I'll stop you there. We do need somebody who can do all the assets. No, I'll come back to you on that. But we're actually looking for somebody for high voltage. And I'm like, okay, no problem. But that's one of the problems I do come across with a lot of the agencies. They don't understand a lot of the technical aspects of what people actually do for a living. And that was a prime example, high voltage. Yeah, tingles. No one does preventative maintenance now. Too expensive until it goes wrong. They don't. A lot of that got cut back in the early 90s is when I started to see it, because when they started bringing the method statements and the risk assessments, people started to analyze what a maintenance was. So when it says change filters, they're going, it says change filters every 3 months. Do you think we can get away with it for 6 months? And then that's become 9 months. And then it become, there's no filters in there at all. Yeah, and the thing is, it's got to that point because there was no investment from 2008, and this is where there's a bit of a tinderbox scenario developing on this stuff where something may go wrong. They're actually having to analyze all this stuff, and that's what I do. I actually analyze where all the risks are on contracts. So I put recommendations together, I analyze what they have, put together what they should be doing, when it should be done, what they've missed, along with a 25-year plan on replacement, because a lot of the stuff is already obsolete. I'm not allowed to discuss some of the stuff that's already happened for legal reasons, but sometimes I do end up in places because of issues. Diesel contamination's one. Yeah, diesel contamination's is one of the problems you get. I've had a site where there was a lack of single man working system. The guy actually slipped while filling up the generator, and the pump continued to pump the entire tank all over the tarmac. It emptied the entire tanker to the point that because of the contamination, they had to dig up well, let's just say it was a runway. It was a runway because they had to decontaminate the ground completely. So they had to dig up the runway. They had to take out entire sections of the ground and everything else to take all the fuel back out of the ground. No contract to fill the generator ran out at 3 a.m. Yeah, I've come across that sort of stuff all the time. I mean, I know there was a construction site in Worcester where the security guards are expected to fill the generator for them. Yet it's not their job to do it. It's just quite simply they hadn't done it themselves. But I know when I went there, they needed the canteen operational and didn't have an electrician. So I was there for something completely different, but I wired up their cabin, the canteen system. Because like the foreman says, there's one thing you don't want to upset is the cup of tea for the builders. So, I was there at like 6 a.m. wiring up this cabin, just so that they had tea, toast, and just the basics. Yeah, I can't go into a lot of the ones I know of, because some of them are quite major, and although nobody was actually injured or stuff, it's what was actually shut down was the scary stuff. Because if somebody had been hurt, then it would already have been in the newspapers. But a lot of this stuff is people just aren't aware of it simply because little things go out like IT issue, computer crash this weekend or whatever. They don't go, UPS system was not connected to the system, and when the power went off, the whole thing went down. They don't put that sort of stuff. They don't put the realities. They just say it's an IT glitch, or a software crash or whatever. Not the fact that some of the stuff wasn't even connected. And I've had £500,000 generators not connected to buildings before. I've done some load testing and stuff like that and found, it's not connected. When was it installed? 10 years ago. And you've serviced it every year? Yes. So why hasn't that ever been tested with the building? Not allowed because the building's critical. Okay. So it's never been tested for its actual load design, and it's never actually been connected to the buildings. Fine. Yeah, some of those actually ended up with some inquiries internally, but I'm moving off this stuff because it's stuff we've got to be very careful about what's mentioned. Gas distribution systems failed, nearly caused a major incident in the UK. Yeah, the funny thing is a lot of this stuff goes on all the time. I got weekly memos for ones I wasn't involved with, but I also had to deal with a lot of incidents because they need to go through a process of identifying who's at fault. For example, a UPS system, which is on 2 phases, where a guy's got a call at 2 o'clock in the morning that it's a mobile engineer unfamiliar with the site. It looks at the UPS and can see that it's charging. What he can't see is if you look to the left, the other side of it wasn't, and then the entire system went down on the Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon it was, which was okay. I'm not saying what it was attached to or whatever, but the point was, if it was a Monday, it would have made the newspapers. But it was lucky it was a Sunday afternoon, so it was just a little bit of a splash. But yeah, you do come across this stuff, and a lot of it is very simple stuff, and a lot of it is down to the preventative maintenance being wiped out, because a lot of the stuff that is associated with it has gone. A lot of the training, for example, I find most people poach from other companies rather than train people. And I mean, I've had these discussions when I was at Carillion. I said, why am I doing a course on, what was it? The one that always sort of sticks in my mind was I think it was finances for non-financial managers. it was something like that. And they were going, yeah, but we get fined by the HM Refugees and Customs every year because people don't fill in their forms properly. And it's like, well, that's not at my level anyway, because my forms are the same every single week. Because, you know, at the end of the day, mine are right. I know they're right. That's one of the things I do because I audit people. So, of course, mine's audited pretty well. But the point is, you get that at the same time, they wouldn't want to invest in you actually doing something that you may need for the business, or give you a 10-inch laptop when you're working on Excel sheets most of the time. That's the sort of stuff you're having to deal with. And you're just saying, why are you giving me a laptop that ceased manufacturing before 1998? Why are you giving me this junk? I've got a brand new laptop. Yeah, but data protection. But you do realize that the version of Windows on there doesn't actually work with the clients that we have. So I can't actually use the laptop at all. And the laptop, for me, actually stayed in my bag because I couldn't physically use it because the software wouldn't work with it. But anyway, that's enough grumbling about the stuff you deal with in the corporate world. But yeah, they rely on luck too much. They do. And a lot of it is what I call corporate hopping as well. Where you'll get directors move from contract to contract, and you see it with senior managers as well. They move before anything actually gets completed. So, for example, say you brought somebody in for compliance and they have a 6-month window to bring everything up to spec. They will have moved to their next contract before month 5. So they dump responsibility. They never finish anything. Somebody else has to be brought in and to complete it or even start it. I've had people I've tried to help and they ignore your emails even because they know, you know, they don't know what they're doing, but you're actually trying to point them in the right direction. But a lot of the stuff you're trying to explain to them is complete gobbledygook to them because they've never had any training on it. What's happened is they've had an opportunity to get promoted within a business to a empty role and never actually been trained in that role, but have just hopped from contract to contract with what they learn as they go. And the biggest thing they learn is keep hopping contracts. Try not to commit to anything. Don't take responsibility. And at all costs, move before it comes to D-Day, where you have to actually put forward what you've actually done in the last 6 months. And that's what they do. A lot of people do it. I've got to admit, I may sound a bit cynical on this stuff. It's simply because it's got worse over the years. I remember when I first got into engineering, it was a lot more professional. There's a lot more people that actually had qualifications, actually knew what they needed to be doing. These days, it's becoming scarce. A lot of the stuff that was down to people that had to do specific tasks, for example, they are the AP, the approved person for something, are working towards the qualification that they need to be the AP. They're actually not legally competent enough to be in that position. But that's how the business operates. And a lot of businesses get away with it because they're working towards it. But often they'd never finish it and leave anyway. And one of the things I do say to you guys, and this is a bit of advice, if you are in one of those scenarios, finish the courses. It's to your advantage. The company doesn't keep it. It's yours. So if you do decide to leave, do it once you've finished it. Get the course finished. Rush the course if you have to. If you hate the job, concentrate on the course and get yourself out the window later. The same as if you get the opportunity to become a supervisor. You know, this is for engineers. If you want to be a supervisor and don't like the company you're with, take the supervisory role that nobody wants. Just take it, because that sets you up at a supervisor level for your next job that you will like. So the point being is, always take opportunities. Don't assume that because it's always to the benefit of the company that there's no benefit to you. That only happens if you don't use things to your benefit. Okay, go Bobo. I'll just see ya. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the things I do want to point out to people. If you get an opportunity, take it. And sometimes the training may not be relevant to you at that time, but it can be relevant in the future. It's like at the moment, I'm going through things relating to JavaScript, Python, I'm doing stuff on PrestaShop. There's a video I'm actually uploading. It's probably just finished now, relating to an introduction on PrestaShop, because I know some of you guys have been asking me about online businesses and stuff. Well, PrestaShop sets you up, and you can set a basic PrestaShop site up in under an hour. The point being is there is a lot of stuff you can be doing that you're not doing already, and that's one of the things I do think that people often get boxed into, is not thinking outside of the box. So like with the PrestaShop, I've got a few things I'm testing this one on, because one of the things I realized with a site I need to repair is I can't do it online, yet I can't pull it offline either, because the version that's running is obsolete in the fact that I can't do an upgrade on it. So I'm actually literally going to have to rebuild the site offline, but it will give me a backup at the same time. While doing that, I'll throw out a load of tutorials for other people as well, so you can get to grips with PrestaShop for those wanting to open up their own e-commerce store. And bear in mind, it doesn't always have to be physical products. For example, you could actually be selling ebooks, or you could be selling t-shirts that are coming via another site, or you could be doing drop shipping where you don't actually own any of the stock, etc. The fact is, there's a lot of possibilities out there. And one of the things I do recommend is doing some of this stuff in your free time, because once they're up and running, they don't take too much man management. Go Bobo, what's going on? Who sent a person to the Philippines with an IQ above a retard? Nice to see you, mate. Yeah. Well, I would say the biggest problem you get in the expat community, if you're talking about expat community, is a lot of the time things get focused on smaller stuff. This is why a lot of stuff gets cycled around. It's much better to try and find stuff outside of the box. Like I say, with PrestaShop, that's something a lot of people can do from the Philippines, say, to America, because we still got American residents, or you got people who can do t-shirt printing for the US direct, etc. There's nothing to say you can't set up your own store. In the same way, you may have something that you want to sell your own ebooks, you know, in the sense that maybe you wrote about your life in the Philippines, or how to lose 100 pounds in 2 weeks, or whatever. You know, at the end of the day, the opportunities are there, and that's why I'm doing the PrestaShop stuff at the moment. Python, I'm into at the moment as well, along with Java, because I'm developing some apps. And quite simply, I've recognized there's a huge gap for what I need. So I'm having to learn to program it and code it myself, which will take me time. I'm not expecting this to rush, but at the same time, it's one of those things. I do believe in continuous development in life. I do think that's important, and everybody should be trying to do that. Not that I'm telling everybody should do it, must do it, etc., but I do believe it is beneficial. So yeah, I mean, we have so much information right in front of us. Yeah, go Bobo. Can we drink beer over sex and become obese until death? If you choose to, that's up to you. That's your choice. That's completely up to you. But we're in the realms of a lot of information right in front of us. That we have a lot of tutorials accessible on things like YouTube. We have a lot of blogs out there that break down coding and everything else, and you can find a lot of the information completely for free. This is why I find it completely bizarre that a lot of people are still going to universities for qualifications that don't actually need validating. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, for example, if I wanted to be a doctor, I couldn't be a YouTube doctor. I couldn't be a Google doctor. I need that PhD. But if I wanted to do social media studies, you're in a social media environment where everything's right in front of you. Yeah, Skillshare, tingles, Skillshare. Yeah, that exactly. I mean, this is the thing about the air conditioning stuff. The thing I'm looking at the moment is trying to get hold of a couple of friends of mine that can actually push for the air conditioning side, because at the end of the day, I know if I spent a couple of weeks with those guys, I'd know it inside out, because they're going to skip all over the junk. because a lot of courses are designed for courses' sake, which means they end up with a lot of information in there that you don't actually need, use, or want. Because, as the saying goes, those that do, those that don't teach. And that's because they're separated, because you learn how you should be doing it, which is in the classroom. And then you go to, say, a construction site or whatever, and then you learn how it's done and why it should be done. Yeah. Go, Bobo. Don't rubbish the Google doctors. We need to make a living. Yeah, it's yeah, but you don't need a PhD. That was my point. Vincent Amogus. Hi, Matt. I run on your channel and watch your videos. I think it's underrated why your content is much more superb than any other channel. I learned a lot from you. Opened my eyes I never knew before. Thank you, and I appreciate that, Vincent. Yeah, I probably got more videos than a lot of other people as well. I think I've got over 2,000 videos in total. Quag, hi Matt. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, the point being is there is a continuous development, and I do encourage people to do it. And that's how I got where I am today, in the sense that I've been able to travel around the world. I've been able to select the jobs I do. Go Bobo, do you rent property to Jay? Yeah, Jay and Bama live in my apartments. But the point being is, it's been seeing the opportunities all the time. For example, there were supervisor roles that had gaps, because at that time I wasn't really interested in being a supervisor. But when people quit, you get the opportunity to actually run things like the projects. So I remember doing National Blood, Sainsbury's in Matalan at the time. I was doing different projects. There's about 6 or 8 projects I was running because the guy quit. The point being is, you then get recognized, and then they want you to be a supervisor because you actually know what you're doing. And one of the reasons nobody wanted to be a supervisor for that company I was with is that you went on to salary. Well, as an engineer, I was making about 74 to 75,000 a year, because I did all the evenings, weekends, on call, because you got 4 hours of double time, plus the £100 a week every week. And nobody wanted to do the extra hours. Well, they were telling me, well, you should be a supervisor. You're already doing the role, and you get I think it was £25,000 a year plus a car. And I said, but I'm already on 75,000. And they're like, oh, yeah, but you get a car instead of a van. I'm like, but I'm not really fast. I've got my own car. I don't need another car, and it's taxable. But the point being is, I took the opportunity from the point of view as I worked as a supervisor. I just wouldn't take the role as a supervisor. And when I went to my next job, they asked what I was doing before. The answer was I was supervising. But you've got to look at the opportunities there, and just take them. Because every company likes people that push things forward. A lot of people will always go against things. A lot of people will say, well, I mean, I remember talking to a couple of guys for a vacancy in a contract when I was up in Scotland, and they wouldn't take it because there was no financial benefit. I said, it's not for that. The reason you take it is because it sets you up for your next job. So you may not get a pay rise on this one, but give it 6 months, you're now a supervisor, and you can move to another company, or tell them you need a pay rise or you're leaving. I'll just say it as it is. And sometimes people don't appreciate it, and other people do. Go Bobo. I always was too scared to buy apartments in the Philippines, even though high returns on investment, the rent is very low. One house there gives me $1,000 per month, but in Philly only $250 a month. Yes, see, the thing is, some of it you weigh up. I mean, my apartments are in my wife's name, for example, because my wife owns the land, etc. Although I'm on the deeds, etc. From a legality point of view, I already hit the tax threshold in the UK. There is no financial benefit for me to be earning any more. So my wife having a steady income is financially beneficial. Me having a income, say I bought a house in the UK and rented it out, it has very little financial benefit to me whatsoever, because of the way the tax system's set up. So for me, that's why the Philippines is more viable for me. Yeah, so where you are, you may have a better income, $1,000 per month, but in the Philippines you only get $250 a month. Yeah, I can understand that. But from my point of view, from a tax point of view, the stuff in the Philippines is not mine, so it doesn't come under my tax bracket. So it's beneficial from that point of view. because I pay way more than I should do on tax. And I know I sound like a grumble on the tax side, but I do think people in the UK are paying way too much. Well, there's a lot of people paying too much, and there's a lot of people that are benefiting from those people paying too much. Would you feel that you would buy more property in the Philippines or not? Yes, there's 2 other lots I'm interested in. I'm not in a rush to buy them because there is some issues relating to the people that own them, and it's much better to give more time because they don't live there anymore. The whole point being is they want to sell the land. There's very few people with the cash to buy it. So one of the problems you get in the Philippines is they do overinflate the price. So they'll turn around and say you're interested. They'll go, oh, we want 6 million pesos. And then you go, okay. And then if they come to you later on because you're not buying it, they may offer you at 4 million because they suddenly realize you're not interested. That's how I find the Philippines economy works. If you're interested, they bump it up. If you're not interested, you get a good price. It's just the way it is. Go Bobo. I was watching one crypto about 4 weeks ago and it went 100% in 24 hours. I've never seen that action before. Had support and high volume, unbelievable trade. I told one of my friends about it. I'd never seen it in the stock market before. Yeah, that's why there's a lot of people in the crypto. The problem you've got is a lot of people got burned at the end of last year because they just expect the market just to keep going up. But the problem you've got is a lot of this stuff is not developed. It's still a idea on the back of a fact packet or in a notebook, and they haven't got the coders and stuff. A lot of companies went out there and said, show me the money, and then I'll hire developers to do it. Quag, is property taxed in the Philippines? From a rental point of view or from a land tax, they both exist. Both exist. Litecoin was beautiful in December. Yeah, Litecoin was doing well until the founder behind it pulled his cash out and told everybody he was. But it's an interesting one because Litecoin I can see going back up because of its speed and cheapness of transactions. So I can see a lot of recovery on that. But yeah, I think the guy behind it, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he lost a lot of credibility after dumping it all, then telling everybody, because obviously he sold out on the peak. He did all right himself. But I do think that the market is something. Yeah, Charlie Lee, that's the guy behind Litecoin. I do think there's a lot of potential on it. And one of the things I'm getting behind with the apps and stuff is because I'm moving on to blockchain once I've done these bits. One of the things you probably noticed, I do keep notebooks with me. And that's one of the things I do is I keep lists of things I need to do, and I'll go back to them until I've completed all the tasks. So it's one of the things I'm actually looking at the moment because the blockchain technology, I believe, has a huge market in the service and maintenance industries for validations of maintenance and other bits and pieces. If you tie it into controllers, for example, that can highlight that the covers have been opened or a vehicle's been at a certain point that you can identify that was actually an engineer at that location at that time, which means that something happened. So if they did break something and turn around and said, no, I was never there, you would have it written into the blockchain. They were there. In the same way, if somebody lost their records, it's written into the blockchain. They were there. So there was proof that they were actually serviced whatever it was. There's a lot of stuff I'm interested in on that side. Go Bobo. 4 weeks ago was a sweet spot, and all the crypto went into green. The following day was great to watch. I'll be right back after the CR again. Okay. Yeah, the markets are always up and down. That's one of the things I think's important is if you are into the crypto, it's understanding the trends. What has been a bit weird is when people have actually gone from an idea and concept into production and actually being something like, for example, the blockchain being able to do its first transactions, and it's had zero market impact because a lot of people simply have not understand what that actually meant because they invested in a product that wasn't built, which makes the market a bit upside down because what you should have had is probably lower investment at the initial. Then when they've had the development, had that increase. But it does show that a lot of the stuff has been overvaluated at the current point of time. Because I do think over time we will see some of this stuff actually start to move into different markets and start to be used, and that's where it'll have some serious value. But until we get to that point, the market is going to be a bit up and down, and it will correct over the next two to 3 years as things start to become the next Google, the next Bing, the next Microsoft, etc. And then you'll suddenly see that something you bought for 1 cent is suddenly worth $400. In the same way, you will find a lot of this stuff will fall by the wayside as well, which is why having a spread across a wide portfolio can also be useful. Yeah, Tingles, a big gap between the white paper and the final offerings. 9% are just scams and non-starters. Exactly. A lot of them didn't have people that could deliver it in the first place. A lot of them were just like, give us money and we'll go and find some developers, which I find completely bizarre. But at the same time, the end of last year, it was an easy way to make money. Yeah, at the end of the day, you could invest in something and sell it within 48 hours and make a profit, even if the idea was stupid. It was just absolutely crazy. Yeah, the lack of user case. Yeah, that's another thing. A lot of them have not actually got anybody that's actually going to buy the product. They're developing a product, then going to look for somebody who will use it. I find some of this stuff a bit strange. You know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of concepts out there that you could take from existing business models onto blockchain. Yeah, CryptoKitties are a funny one. Yeah, but for example, imagine doing Uber on the blockchain, where it could take crypto and do auto transactions back to fiat, into fiat, multiple directions, and using the blockchain technology so that you don't have to give up your identification of who you are, but at the same time, you can validate a driver and yourself through your crypto wallets, in the sense that you can have a rating on the wallets themselves. So you don't actually need to know who the person is, what they look like, whether male, female, whatever. Instead, you just have transactions. That sort of thing would actually, I assume, would take off quite easily. I'm not sure if anybody's actually come up with that one yet. But there's a lot of stuff that just makes sense. I mean, things like parking. Being able to do crypto in parking as if it's a token system, and then using the same thing for London Underground and things would make sense as well, where you could actually just credit your phone and then you simply go to one of the, because I mean, some of the car parking I deal with don't have any machines. You have to literally phone a number because they watch it on the CCTV. Yet if you turn around and could just do it straight through the crypto, and you could build it into the newer cars dash, so it could actually say your parking's already reserved or whatever, and then you just do it in tokens or whatever. It may be a way of generating them as well. But the point is, there's a lot of things out there it could be used for and would be quick to build. Yeah, car charging is another one. Yeah, because you could integrate that with the car charging very easily. And a lot of the car parks have the car charging. The same with car washing. A lot of them are already built into the multi-stories. You know, people are washing vac your car. So there's a lot of stuff where they're trying to remove the cash, because there's obviously a lot of it is small money. Some of the bigger car parks I go to, in the sense of central London or whatever, they charge a small fortune. So the point being is they're not really coin operated, but it'd be ideal to be able to do the transactions through an app and just get rid of a lot of the problems. Yeah, Go Bobo. Can I ask what the Philippine tenants are like? Do they pay on time? Yeah, they pay on time. I've had no payment issues with, well, nobody. I've only had one payment issue with somebody, and that was 2009, I think. 2009, 2010, where a guy, he just arrived in the Philippines and got robbed within 2 hours. Yeah, there's only ever been one person. It was an American guy. He had a bum bag, or what you call it, Americans call a fanny pack, I suppose. And basically he had $1,000 stolen out of it because he had all of his cash in there. And he got robbed, and he just had a complete meltdown and run away the following day. rather than actually saying I've been robbed, blah blah blah, because he went out in a jeepney. No, I've had Filipinos there as well. We had a English teacher that lived in one apartment for a year, which is now Jay's apartment. We have a lot of guys that have their Filipino partners come and stay, you know, whether it's while the foreigners are there or whether the foreigner is going to waiting for the visa processing of their spouse. So they'll actually stay there because they know it's a secure area. So, you know, it's a nice area. So in the sense that, I mean, we have multiple CCTV systems. Neighbors are pretty good as well because we're related to most of them. Yeah, the guy was robbing the jeepney. He got pickpocketed on the jeepney. I think they slashed it with a razor blade and emptied his bag. But then he just freaked out completely and then ran away the following day after running up a tab as well. That's why there's no tabs anymore in our Sari Sari store, because they can thank that guy for that. Yeah, a lot of people get robbed on the jeepneys. The jeepneys, there's a lot of pickpocketing. There's things they'll do. They normally operate in threes, but you'll get, for example, somebody sat opposite you will drop some money on the floor. The guy on the left and right, they'll be leaning on you to create some pressure on you. At the same time, they may have a bag. Imagine the guy on your right has a bag in front of them with their left arm wrapped around. Their right hand is behind their bag in between their chest and actually going into your bag. And the reason they do that is because they try and create pressure because you can't feel them stealing your money. Because when you lean over to help this person pick up their money, they grab yours. Yeah, it's quite common. There's a lot of pickpockets and stuff. And one of the things I do recommend is what I do is I simply do not carry anything on me when I go out. If I've got money on me, I fold it into a little square and keep it in my hand. At the end of the day, I keep my cash in my left hand and my jeepney fare in my right, so nobody actually sees what's in my left hand. I don't carry anything in my pockets. Yeah, jeepney. Yeah, I've never had any problems with jeepneys, but like I said, I don't carry anything on a jeepney. If I'm going out, I don't normally carry a mobile phone or anything. It's literally just shorts, t-shirts, money in my hand for whatever I'm going to do. And if I'm carrying a larger amount of money, I'll travel by taxi or go out on a motorbike. One thing I don't do is carry large amounts of cash on a jeepney. It's just not worth the risk. Because a lot of the time, I mean, in Talise, when you cross the bridge between Lepata and Talise, you'll see there's a little hut on the left-hand side, which is owned by the police. That was there because there was a lot of robberies where the people were actually going under the bridge. They'd rob the jeepney, jump off the bus, and then go into the shanty that's underneath the bridge. It just disappeared down the side of the bridge. So they put a police station there. There has been rumors and complaints that the police have actually been extorting money from the jeepney drivers now. So I'll leave that for another day. But the point being is it can be risky, but generally it's just petty theft. And that's what I say. I don't carry a phone or nothing that I can argue with somebody over. You know, at the end of the day, I may have like 2,000, 3,000 pesos in my hand, but generally, if I'm going out there to say buy something at a mall, I'll go in a taxi. I can add you on Facebook. I'll have a look for you, see if you're on Facebook. I've just zoomed in now, so I've lost my chat. Hang on. I do love the Mac with its magic mouse. It does seem to love clicking on stuff. Has anybody else got anything they want to ask? Because we're going to a barbecue today, by the way. We're going out for the day. Sorry, I go quiet because I'm actually watching the screen, so I don't actually close any windows when I'm not actually. That's it. Yeah, I've just added you. Yeah, Ethereum Quag. All I have right now is some Ethereum. It's down about 50% and just very flat. Any thoughts about Ethereum? What you've had with Ethereum, if you looked at a lot of the ICOs from last year, they were taking Ethereum as their main currency because of the transaction fees related to Bitcoin at the time. So you have a lot of ICOs, which are the companies that use this as a share option. Because I have to say share option rather than token offering or whatever, because it just simplifies it for people that aren't in crypto. So they are sitting on a lot of Ethereum, and they're having to cash it out for the developments. So what's actually happening is every time it goes up, it's these ICOs, which is initial coin offerings, cashing out the Ethereum they're holding, which was used to swap their tokens. They sold the tokens to people for the Ethereum. So now they need to sell some of the Ethereum for offices, for computer equipment, for whatever they're spending it on. That's why it looks very flat. Well, it is very flat, because what's happening as soon as it goes up, they're selling it because they need to use it for liquidity in the business. So that's what's happening with Ethereum. That will continue for probably the next 6 months. That's the sad thing. I'm sitting on a lot of Ethereum. I was hoping I would see a little bit of a bump on that. Nice rise to $700 so I could sell it all. But it's not happening. And I'm sitting on the same thing with that. It's quite simply, they are not trading it. It's been sold out. Cryptos are killing me. Sadly, I won't be shocked if it's a bear market until sometime in 2020. That's from Michael G. Yeah, I have to say myself, I'm expecting this year to be a difficult year. 2019, I'm a little bit maybe, because the reason being is I'm expecting things like VET to actually have done something by then. I'm expecting some of the other ones to actually have developed. But at the same time, we know the media are going to be all over like a feeding frenzy. Anything that's negative, they're going to go, 50% of ICOs failed last year. You know, it's all this negative stuff. They don't focus on, look at this new business success. This startup come from nowhere and they're now competing with whatever. You only get those sort of things on LinkedIn where everybody self-promotes their own businesses. But generally, media just love everything being negative. It's just the way it is. And some things are never changing. Go, Bobo. Matt, take my long life pill, which adds 100 years to your life, then you can sit until profit arrives. Well, for me, it doesn't really matter, because I only ever put $400 in. I've had a car out of it. I've had the last year out of it, and I've got a fairly decent portfolio. So for me, I already made a profit. So for me, it's not really an issue. I know a lot of people invested, and a lot of people invested at the wrong time as well. But I do expect that a lot of people will see recovery over time. A lot of it is down to the fact we are still not seeing things developed. Ethereum is one thing in a sense of its smart contracts, but the smart contracts, I think, are not complex enough yet. I would like to see something develop around, let's just call it Gates, not Bill Gates, but things like NAND Gates, NOR Gates, that sort of thing around smart contracts. So it's decision making. Go Bobo. Did Jay learn from you, or did Jay teach you? No, we didn't teach each other. We both do our own thing. Jay does it in a different way. Myself, I read a lot of the strategies and stuff around it. I read a lot of the media. I do a lot of stuff related to candlesticks and other things around the actual market side, in the sense of what the stocks and shares are actually doing. Jay does it in a different way, but I can't say completely what Jay's way is, because we just chatter about certain things we're looking at, not where we get that information from. Because I analyze certain things. I'm in a lot of trading groups, etc. Jay's not in those same trading groups, so yeah, we're completely different in that front. Yeah, but we've done well out of it. We both made decent money, so no grumbling. It's all been good. Go Bobo. I have a trading background in normal stock market, but when I look at crypto, I see it all very similar and more easier. Yeah, that's the thing. The only problem you've got to be careful of is when things change very badly. You know, in the sense that there's too much media driving in the crypto space, which, if you look for it for signals, can sometimes go against what you expect, because they may be down because Bitcoin's down, yet you're actually looking at something completely different. But because Bitcoin's down, people aren't even looking at it. And, you know, you get these obscure things happen which go against the grain. And then you get things like Mt. Gox with the big sell-offs and things like that, where the market's due to go up and they just hammered it down big style. Paul Dean, get ready for a new world currency 2018 in Economist magazine 1988. Yeah, you should share a link to that. It'd be worth having a look at that. I am expecting changes in the markets, that's for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm seeing a lot of people are not as happy as they used to be. I mean, I don't know if I can even talk about the burqa today, but I will do. I was talking to a Muslim friend of mine. I've known him since I was a kid. We were at school together. And we're talking about the burqa and because obviously Boris came out with this thing around the burqa. I was just asking, you know, we got into the view on it, and I was saying, well, not being funny here, but how can it be oppressive in Afghanistan, which is the way the media pushed it, and yet it's religious in the UK and acceptable? How can it be both ways at the same time? And I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of it, but the point is that's how the media often is. The same thing can be completely different at the same time being the same thing, but it's not acceptable because you're not allowed to discuss it in some places. So it becomes very obscured. Vincent, I really admire you so much. You're humble, and I know it. I've been watching your videos. It's like my teacher back in high school, a really good model for young startups from Baccalaureate, your neighbor. Thanks for all the positive comments, and feel free to get in touch with me if you're looking to set up on a business or something. Maybe there's something I can help with. You can go on my Facebook page. It's the easiest one to get hold of me. But yeah, I'll be happy to help where I can. Go Bobo. I like Jay, but I think Bahama is not my type of friend I would usually entertain. This is the thing. This is one of the things I do find where let's get back to policing the expat community. Everybody is different. You know, at the end of the day, everybody's circles are different, and a lot of the social circles will never meet. Myself, I cannot deal with a lot of socialism in the sense that every socialist I've met so far believe in taking from others, but don't like people taking from them, along with the fact that they don't believe they should have to work. It should be a choice and things like that. And quite simply, that doesn't fit into my context of what would be true socialism for me. True socialism would be, for me, where everybody works for the benefit of all, not me, which is often the way it gets misinterpreted. So yeah, at the same time, I know that. I know I'd never be able to agree with these people, which is why I don't engage with them. Paul Dean, uranium is interesting proposition, and Berkeley Energy at BKY and Yellowcake YCA on AIM. Are you on about from a crypto point of view? Because I haven't seen that one. I'll have a look at it. Unless you're actually on about an investment in uranium itself, which wouldn't surprise me because I've got friends who invest in copper and other things. Quag, bye for now, Matt. Keep up the good work. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Take care. Go Bobo. I have a lot of Muslim friends, and the part that media talks about is actually financial reasons backing the ideals. Yeah, this is the thing. It's a very skewed view, and the point I was trying to engage with my friend was around the fact that I think they have to have more engagement from a social aspect because they're allowing people to walk all over them, at the same time not confronting the issues. Because my friend's view is that younger women and girls are deciding to take more interest in their own religion, etc., etc. Now, my argument from a Western perspective, maybe from a devil advocate's point of view, is that the UK is a more Western country, and I would assume a lot of the women are becoming more Westernized. So would that be from more of a dictation point of view rather than these people making these decisions from themselves? The point is, I can have this discussion with my friend, but nobody really has these sort of discussions in an open forum or really gets into it and says, look, let's talk about this, because there's no point having, say, Tommy Robinson at one end and then you have some other group at the other end. And then they're speaking as if they're the majority when they're actually not the majority, because a lot of the majority is quite simply just want to say, look, let's just sit down and actually work all this out. You know, at the end of the day, is this acceptable? Why are you doing it? What's this about? At the same time, these guys don't like it because X, Y, Z. It's in the same way from the other side, people saying you can't have a Union flag in your sausage because it's offensive to somebody is also wrong when it's in the actual United Kingdom. It's the flag of the United Kingdom. That's it. It doesn't matter if somebody feels they're offended. They're welcome to leave. Because I'll tell you what, from countries I've been to, many of these countries wouldn't let you even touch their flag in that way. You'd probably end up with a beating for 2 weeks and then deported along with it. The UK has been very tolerant on a lot of stuff, but I do think there's a lot of stuff where people can actually sit there and go, come on, let's add some common sense into this. This sort of stuff needs to be wiped off the table because it's utter nonsense. This sort of stuff is being manipulated by the media. Let's actually get something that works for everybody. And we know we're not going to get 100%. Let's be reasonable here. But at least we can actually turn around and say, well, come on. Why does it matter? Why is it bothering you? What's the big issue? Let's all have a chat about it. Go Bobo. To be honest, I would never approve Bama as a tenant in one of my properties. No, I think my past agents would either. But I know what your choices are in the fields. Bama's behaving, and he knows we have certain rules anyway. So he's not creating an issue for me. Let's put it that way. Go Bobo. Possibly the funny thing is, Matt, I met a man from London and Philly, and he said that Muslims have destroyed his country, and that's why he's there. I think he now realizes how many Muslims are in the Philly yet. Oh, he's not realized. Yeah. Well, this is one of the things like Spain. I see the same in Spain. I see Brits here doing it. They leave their comments on Facebook and everything else. And then I have to remind people of the Moors because a lot of people aren't even aware of the Moors in Spain and, historically, how everything interfaces. Yeah, if people want to have an argument over something, I do recommend they actually engage with the people they want to argue with, but also research history. I do think there's a lot of stuff that has not progressed in some nations, but at the same time, I understand why some of the stuff hasn't progressed. And some of it's down to the way that some of the environments are. And although people assume everybody's equal and everyone's the same, reality is that's as far from the truth as it could be. It would be a utopian society if that existed, but reality is people have different issues, different viewpoints, and you could see the same thing with 6 different people and they would all have a different view on it. That's just the way the world is. D-mail, hello, Matt. Are you back in the Philippines? No, not at the moment. My mother-in-law might be over for Christmas, but I'm more likely to be in the UK next month than in the Phils. So, yeah, not at the moment. Go Bobo. Here's an interesting fact I want to share with you. Yeah, go ahead. So, yeah, from my point of view, I think people need to just recognize that people will never get on in the world. Not everybody will ever get on because everyone has their own opinions, own things that they like, their own moral compasses, their own choices, their views on things, and they will never always meet. Never. I mean, it's a bit like my view on the NHS. I cannot understand why there's 1.5 million people working for it. At the same time, when I try and engage with people that believe that's, well, no, I wouldn't say it's acceptable. I'd just say they simply see it from a socialist point of view or a unionist point of view. They simply ignore the facts. So like that, I just accept. I would never be able to get it through to their skull that 1.5 million people working for a government entity is excessive. Go Bobo. I met a girl in the Philippines. She's a native Filipino, but also has citizenship in the UK. Ask her why she lives here and not in the UK. Her reply was UK is depressing and she likes the lifestyle here in the Philippines. I found that interesting. The answer to that is many people do. I find the UK depressing. I find that people are money orientated. There's too much self-praising. I find people don't want to actually confront real issues in front of them, yet at the same time, a lot of people have opinions on everybody else. I can understand where she's talking from. And if she's from the Philippines, she obviously has looked back on it and actually understands that a lot of this stuff is very different in the Philippines. Because if you decided to live like a local lifestyle, not really showing the money, not trying to impress anybody, not pretending to be something you're not, you will find in the Philippines, your life's pretty stress-free. Nobody's bothering you. They are just leaving you to do your own thing. They are not trying to, there's no keeping up with the Joneses, there's no, because they know you're not interested. You can have a very, very comfy lifestyle. And I've got friends that have gone back to the Philippines from the US, from Australia, from Germany, and predominantly and from the UK, and it's because they enjoy the way things are. It's the ability to do things the way you like. In Spain, like at the start of this show, I mentioned how irritating the neighbors are here, but the one thing I do recognize is why before you buy a property, is make sure you're in the right neighborhood. In this case, I know I'm not in the right right area, so I'm moving back to where I was much happier and the people are actually more civilized. So that's me. I like quiet life. I don't like people's dogs barking. I don't like drunks fighting outside the house. I don't like screaming kids 24/7. I just like a quiet life. And it may sound like I'm getting old or whatever, but quite simply, it's a constant. You know, it's not a case of, oh, the kids are screaming again and it's like once a month or whatever. I'm talking every single day, you know, so it does get annoying. D-Mail just moved to the Philippines in February to my wife's province, loving it here. She likes it in the US, but we are both happier here. Yeah, I can understand it completely. I mean, in the Philippines for us, very laid back. Obviously, if we're in the Philippines, we don't actually have to work either. You go, because we already have enough income to actually sit on our backsides and do nothing in the Philippines. The main thing for us is the actual education of the children, which is why we're in Spain. But at the same time, I still love the Philippines. You know, it does have its issues around dust, pollution, and obviously the war on drugs at the moment is creating some other issues around dodging bullets. But at the same time, it's still a country I can connect with, enjoy, and find that you can hop on your motorcycle, head south for an hour, and it's just chilled out. You know, you can relax. Spain, I find, is a bit like that as well. But like I said, it depends where you are. And obviously, I do find in Spain that we do get a lot of the bad elements coming in for the tourists as well from other parts of Europe for the begging, the pickpocket, and everything else. So, yeah, I prefer the Philippines on that sense. But there's a lot of positive stuff with Spain as well. Go Bobo. Looks like even for Philippines, it's not always about the money, but says a lot about our Western countries. Yeah, I agree. It's not always about the money in the Philippines. In fact, because a lot of people don't have a lot of money, it's often the last thing they think about, which is they simply just get on with life day to day and don't worry about it. Yeah, even D-Mill even had taxi drivers want to loan money for different emergencies. Don't get into that, especially with taxi drivers. They'll be telling every other taxi driver. You just tell them, "Yeah, I haven't got any money. Wala utang." Yeah, you don't give anybody any credit. That's it. Go Bobo. I was hoping the war on drugs would recuse the foreigners visiting, but it looks like it's not made much difference. I've got to be honest. It's had a lot of positive impact as well in the Philippines. There's a lot of mortality, but you got to understand, if you look at the figures before the war on drugs, they were already around the same figures anyway. It's just that it wasn't getting as much media coverage. The media coverage are over it, trying to win the next election. Let's be honest. Outback Dave, hi Matt. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you. Yeah, Go Bobo. I had a taxi driver trying to get me to buy him a trike. Yeah, they'll try whatever they can. At the end of the day, if they can see it, then you'll get people laugh it off as a joke. They mean it. Don't get me wrong. If you went and bought it, they would think you're an idiot for buying it, and they would probably got no intention of paying you back and would just see it as gifted. But they will try it, and if you did buy it, then fine. And if you didn't, they just laugh it off. If they were only joking, they're just trying their luck. At the same time, welcome to the Philippines. It's the same as Christmas when you get people ask you where is their present. And then you just say, it's next to the one you bought me. There you go. Job done. And they'll go, but I didn't buy you one. There you go. There, we've solved that. Solved the riddle. There is no presents. Anyway, guys, I'm going to have to go because I'm going out in 40 minutes, going to a nice barbecue with the Bings. We've got Peter and Anna. They live near us. Anna's from the Philippines as well. But yeah, we're going to head over for a barbecue. Sundays, hard Sundays. I might do some pictures today, and I'll stick them on the. There's a community chat tab on here. I might stick them on there. But if you ever want to get onto the live chat, there's a form in the description. All you need to do is just put your information in there. Nobody else gets it. I'll make contact with you, can chat, and then we'll talk about some of the subjects that we can talk. So one of the things I've noticed with a lot of live chats is they end up with dead air because people will run out of things to say or the conversation changes and then there's not really any flow. So it would be nice to actually share some of the topics and stuff in advance, or if you've got topics you'd like to talk, I'm open for anybody to get onto that. But it's good seeing all you guys. D-Mill, we don't loan anyone money. We just say we are here to live quietly and have no extra. Actually, we have saved tons since living here. Just live quietly and not showing off. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with saving your own money. At the end of the day, it's your money. You owned it. And unless you're actually planning on giving your wealth away, it's yours. If you want to do something, one of the things I do, and one of the things I do is I do pay for people's medical emergencies, and a lot of time people aren't aware I've done it. I've just gone and got their bills paid. In the same way, if you want to help people with medication, you can find people that can't afford the medication. You can just go down to the A&E and just buy it for them. Buy it from the pharmacy, don't buy it from the hospital, it's cheaper. But you can just give them the medication that they need. If you feel that you want to do something, it's completely up to you. Or you get involved with the schools, but be aware the schools often will point you in a direction of where they want you to spend your money on things for themselves and not for the kids. But just be aware of that. Cornish Jerry, hi, nice to see you. Apologies that I'm just about to go out for a barbecue, but it's nice to see you here. Go Bobo, thank you for the chat. Mr. Will, see you again. Yeah, take care. I've added you on the Facebook. D-Mill, where do I find that from? The form, it's actually in the description right at the bottom. If you click on where it says, it said started streaming 2 hours ago. If you would like to get on the live chat, please fill in the form. We'll get back to you in touch. It might actually be showing right now, but when it stops, it should be showing. In fact, I'll tell you what. Let me just copy this across. That's the easiest way of doing it, isn't it? I'll put it in the live chat if my computer doesn't crash first. There you go. So it's in the live chat at the bottom now. Jason Sparatos, good morning. Good morning, good afternoon. Going for a barbecue, so apologies, I'm on the way out. But please have a look at the show if you want to catch up. Outback Dave, UKIP is becoming more popular in the UK, so not everyone is happy with how things are going there. I agree. And the thing with the UKIP, I was talking about this to my friend Peter. I'm going to have a chat with it later. I might actually take my camera today. How's that? I'll actually have a debate with Peter about UKIP. Because one of the things I am saying about the UKIP is they need to be more focused on putting a proper manifesto and everything together that has a broader spectrum of interest beyond Europe. If they want to be taken into account for becoming a major party. There is a lot of people that are disgruntled, but a lot of it is not focused. If you look at the Tommy Robinson stuff, if you go into their chats and stuff, it's very focused in a single view, which is not broad enough. If you actually want to get into politics, it just does not cover enough. Jason Spiratos, I just got my Class A CDL about to drive. Gas $23.60 an hour to get your CDL, people. What's a CDL? Share that with us. Stefan M, enjoy your Barbie, Matt. Raining here in Brum. I might actually see you in Brum if you ever want to meet up. I'm not far south of you. I'm down in Birmingham. I may be over next month. I'm just waiting for my car to come back, and then I may be contracting to a university. We'll wait and see on that. Fingers crossed. Paul Dean, get ready for Phoenix Economist magazine, 1st of 9th, 1988. Outback Dave, dry here, no rain for a long time. New South Wales. Yeah, it's well. Hopefully you have some of this rain. Yeah, Jason Spiratos, commercial diver license. Funny enough, I was just thinking, where did I see the letters before? And I remember because I was looking. There's two different systems. So I was looking at one in the UK, and then they were looking at the PADI system, and the one in the UK was available, but the PADI one was more recognised globally for whatever reason. I'm not sure. Anyway, have a great day, everybody. It's been nice chatting. I'm gonna have to go because we're gonna start getting ready to head out the door. But it's been great having you all on here. And if you do actually, commercial driver license, yeah. Okay. If you do like this show, please click like, please share, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.